I'm Nick Hards, I'm the County Councillor for Didcot West. I've been doing that job for the last 4 years. I was a candidate 8 years ago as well when I lost to the Conservatives. 4 years ago I beat the Conservatives, and since then I've really enjoyed myself, but I've also had to work very hard as the councillor. The County Council at the moment is run by an administration made up of the Conservatives, who aren't quite a majority, but they've been helped by 3 independents. Labour are the second largest party, and we've regularly held them to account. And in particular, we put together a very complicated budget just 15, 16 months ago, which I was largely instrumental in drawing up, and which was actually agreed by all the main parties. The only people that didn't agree it were the 2 Greens. And one of the features of that budget was a so-called transition fund, which is what we are using at the moment to try and rescue as many children's centres as we can from the £300 million worth of cuts that the government have imposed on the County Council. Apart from children's centres, one of the big issues for the County Council is looking after the older people and adults who can't care for themselves. And if anybody is frail, infirm or anything like that and doesn't have enough money to be able to pay for their own care, the County Council has to pick up the tab. A lot of the care is provided in people's homes, and over the last few years the County Council has done this by buying in the services of outside contractors. Most of those outside contractors are struggling financially, and one that cared for over 100 adults in Oxfordshire went bust about a month ago, Cleve Link. Now obviously the 100 or so people that Cleve Link looked after still needed to be got up, bathed and dressed the following morning, even after the company had gone bust. So the county still had to step in and find people that could look after them. We have managed to persuade the County Council, all, believe it or not, to agree that we will bring the adult social care in people's homes back in-house. The County Council will have its own carers service, and that those people will be directly employed by the County Council, so that we aren't at the mercy of the private sector. That leads me on to one thing which a lot of people get very excited about and very cross about, which is potholes. What people don't tend to realise is that although the County Council repairs potholes, it doesn't actually have any money which it can use to spend on repairing potholes, except money which the government gives it, and the government doesn't give it enough money. You may be surprised about this because you think you pay the council tax and you think that's going towards the roads. Well, I'm afraid it isn't. There isn't enough of that money for the roads. So we rely on government money. My idea to get round the pothole problem is to use some of the land and other assets which the county owns in various parts of Oxfordshire, and it owns a lot, to raise money and actually invest capital in bringing the roads up to standard. If you look at a lot of the roads in Didcot with potholes, or a lot of the roads in any of the other towns and villages around the county, they need capital to be spent on them to bring them up to standard. And although we can't solve everything, we can certainly do a darn sight better job than we are doing at the moment. I have been working on something called a Cabinet Advisory Group off and on for the last 3 years, and I know that what I've worked out on this front is possible, and it can be done, and it is achievable. I've noticed that various people around are very cross about the way the buses are being given a pathway through the station road just here, just next to Cornerstone. I think most people agree that we had a lovely sitting out area until this work started. The problem here was down to the fact that the district council, run by the Conservatives, wanted to extend the Orchard Centre. They came up with a plan which ignored the fact that the buses needed to be looked after. they failed to take into account that they needed to provide an adequate pathway for the buses, and what they should have done was spent money on some land near the Jubilee Way roundabout so that they could create a better road junction there. The current interim director at South Oxfordshire District Council admits that this current station road arrangement can only be temporary. It's a ridiculously expensive vanity project for a temporary solution to a problem which they failed to anticipate. But at the moment we are stuck with it, I'm afraid, and I was particularly cross that I was limited to less than a minute of 5 minutes speaking on a planning application of this before this happened at the District Council, because the chairman of the planning committee wouldn't make an exception, although he could have used his discretion. So that, I'm afraid, is why the Station Road sitting out area and the seating area outside Boswell's Cafe is being spoilt. I do wish that we weren't taking risks with children's lives, which is what I think is happening here. Of course, for all these sorts of things, I do need to get re-elected. And I have a lot of experience as a councillor. I've been a town councillor off and on for 16 years. I have been a district councillor for 8 years in the past. I am just coming to the end of my first 4 years as a county councillor, and I would just ask you to give me another 4 years when I'm quite sure that with my experience that I've built up over this time, I will be able to serve my community better even than I have done in the last 4 years. Thank you very much.